The Silent Ultimatum. The Hegemony Council chamber floated in the void between stars, a massive construct of living metal and crystalline intelligence that had overseen galactic affairs for 50,000 years. Inside its hallowed halls, representatives of the 17 founding species debated in frequencies and vibrations that would drive a human mind to madness. "The data is conclusive," announced High Overseer Vexteri, his translucent tendrils pulsing with bioluminescent concern. "The species designated human has achieved quantum entanglement communication, gravitational manipulation, and fusion propulsion in merely 3 centuries since their first primitive radio signals." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of alarmed communications. Such technological progress was unprecedented and terrifying. "They will reach Horizon-class capabilities within 50 solar cycles," continued Vexteri, projecting the statistical model that revealed humanity's exponential growth curve. "By then, even our combined fleets would be insufficient to contain them." "Prophylactic intervention is standard protocol," chittered the Silnuth representative, mandibles clicking nervously. "We have observed this pattern in 16 other emergent civilizations. Each presented existential threats to galactic stability." What the Silnuth failed to mention was that each of those 16 civilizations have been eliminated, their homeworlds sterilized by hegemony purification fleets before they could challenge the established order. "I propose an alternative," hummed the ancient consciousness known only as the Mist. "A demonstration of overwhelming power, followed by terms of surrender and integration. The humans need not be exterminated, merely subjugated." The council deliberated for what humans would measure as 7 days before reaching consensus. Earth would receive an ultimatum: surrender all advanced technologies, accept hegemony oversight, and assign 90% of their industrial capacity to hegemony-directed projects. The alternative would be extinction. "Send the message," commanded Vexteri. "Let it be heard by every human simultaneously." Dr. Elena Reyes was analyzing soil samples in her laboratory at the International Space Agency when the headache began. At first, she thought it was just fatigue from working 18 hours straight, but then she noticed her research assistant clutching his temples as well. Across Earth, 10 billion humans experienced the same phenomenon simultaneously, a pressure building inside their skulls, until it finally resolved into words that somehow bypassed their ears and materialized directly in their consciousness. "Humanity, your technological development has exceeded HCC parameters. Surrender your autonomy and y to the hegemony, or face it to you have fired. One civilization, CYCLES to COMPI. Resistance is futile. The message repeated 3 times before fading, leaving humanity in stunned silence. For the first hour, panic spread like wildfire. Stock markets crashed. Religious leaders proclaimed apocalypse. Military forces worldwide went to maximum readiness. But then something unexpected happened. In a basement in Seoul, a teenager named Jae-ho created a remix of the alien message, adding a ridiculous beat and auto-tuned vocals repeating "surrender your autonomy" with a dance track underneath. He uploaded it with the caption, "POV. When aliens think they're intimidating but sound like my mom telling me to clean my room." It went viral within minutes. In Mexico City, street artists spray-painted caricatures of bug-eyed aliens holding signs that read, "Surrender your autonomy," while human figures offered them tacos instead. A New Delhi comedy troupe quickly filmed and released a skit showing aliens demanding Earth's surrender, only to become utterly confused by bureaucratic paperwork and being told to take a number and wait. By the end of the first day, humanity's collective response to an existential threat was not coordination for war, not diplomatic outreach, but laughter, memes, parodies. The absurdity of an unknown alien force making demands without even showing their faces became the punchline of a global joke. Inside the UN Emergency Security Council, the atmosphere was considerably more serious. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected multiple objects decelerating at the edge of our solar system, announced General Hiroshi Tanaka, pointing to the holographic display. Based on their energy signatures, we're looking at a fleet of approximately 300 vessels, each larger than our largest aircraft carriers. Secretary General Kamala Okafor nodded grimly. And our defensive capabilities? Limited, but not zero, replied Admiral Chenwei, activating another holographic image. Project Aegis has produced 12 functional orbital defense platforms. The Prometheus initiative has yielded antimatter warheads with sufficient yield to threaten even vessels of that size. But against 300 ships, she shook her head. We need time, said Dr. William Dlovu, head of the Science Directorate. Our quantum entanglement weapons are still theoretical. 6 months, maybe a year, and we might have something that could actually threaten them. Then we buy time, Secretary General Okafor decided. And perhaps this unusual public response gives us an opportunity. What do you mean? Asked General Tanaka. Okafor gestured to a screen showing the global social media response, the jokes, memes, and casual dismissals of the alien threat. The hegemony expected fear, capitulation, or possibly desperate resistance. They didn't expect this. Let's exploit their confusion. High Ambassador Zix Terrell of the Hegemony Diplomatic Corps had studied hundreds of species facing extinction events. The standard response pattern was predictable: denial, anger, bargaining, preparation for conflict, and finally submission when the hopelessness of resistance became clear. Humans were not following this pattern. Explain again. Zix Terrell demanded of the xeno-behaviorist aboard the flagship Inevitable Dominance. The behaviorist's eye stalks quivered nervously. The humans appear to be mocking the ultimatum. They've incorporated our message into entertainment formats, humorous imagery, and social bonding rituals. That's impossible. Zix Terrell's translucent skin flushed purple with agitation. No sentient species laughs in the face of extinction. It violates every principle of evolutionary psychology. Nevertheless, the behaviorist insisted, displaying intercepts of Earth's internet traffic on the ship's main screen. Observe. The screen filled with images of humans in various locations pantomiming exaggerated surrender poses, followed by raucous laughter. Parody songs about the hegemony played in the background. One particularly viral video showed a human child with a cardboard box on their head pretending to be an alien, demanding the surrender of a household pet that completely ignored the child. This is madness, muttered Zix Terrell. No, corrected the ship's quantum intelligence. This is humanity. Their neural architecture evolved in an environment of constant threats and social challenges. Their response to fear often manifests as humor, a psychological defense mechanism that allows cognitive function to continue under extreme stress. But they must realize the severity. According to our scans, interrupted the intelligence, their military installations are on high alert. Their leadership is meeting continuously. They understand the threat perfectly. The public behavior is something else. The fleet admiral, a massive being composed of metallic biomatter, joined the conversation. Perhaps this is strategic, a psychological operation to confuse us. Zix Terrell considered this. Then we shall meet with their leaders directly. Prepare a diplomatic shuttle. I will descend to their planet and make our intentions perfectly clear. The Hegemony shuttle landed precisely on the designated coordinates in Geneva, Switzerland. A delegation of 7 humans waited on the tarmac, representatives from Earth's most powerful nations and alliances. As the alien craft's door opened with a theatrical hiss of steam, Secretary General Okafor whispered to her colleagues, "Remember the strategy. Confidence, not arrogance. Curiosity, not fear." High Ambassador Zix Terrell emerged, flanked by two guards whose biomechanical armor made them look like walking tanks. The ambassador himself was unexpectedly beautiful. Translucent skin revealing intricate patterns of bioluminescent organs, graceful limbs moving with liquid precision, 4 intelligent eyes scanning the human delegation. "I am High Ambassador Zix Terrell of the Galactic Hegemony," the alien announced, its translator converting complex harmonic vibrations into crisp English. "I come to formalize your species' surrender and integration into the hegemony." Okafor stepped forward, her posture relaxed but dignified. "I am Secretary General Kamala Okafor of the United Nations. Welcome to Earth, Ambassador. We appreciate you traveling all this way, but there appears to be a misunderstanding." The ambassador's skin rippled with color. "There is no misunderstanding. Your technological development threatens the stability of this sector. You will surrender your autonomy or face extinction. Your species' response thus far has been puzzling." Okafor smiled warmly. "May I ask, Ambassador, how many species have you delivered this ultimatum to before?" 16, Zix Terrell answered without hesitation. "And how many chose extinction over surrender?" "None. All eventually recognized the futility of resistance." Okafor nodded thoughtfully. "You see, that's where the misunderstanding lies. Humans aren't like those other species. We have a long history of facing threats from those who considered themselves superior. Sometimes we've lost. Often we've won. But we've never, ever surrendered our autonomy." She paused. "We'd like to propose an alternative. Friendship." The ambassador's translator seemed to struggle with the last word, emitting a series of confused clicks before settling on non-hierarchical mutual cooperation. "Yes, exactly," Okafor continued, still smiling. "We believe the hegemony and humanity could benefit each other far more as equals than as rulers and subjects." "Impossible," stated Zix Terrell flatly. "The hegemony has existed for 50,000 years, based on strict hierarchical order. Lesser species serve, greater species lead." "And how is greater determined?" asked the Chinese representative. "Technological advancement, evolutionary age, and strategic value," replied the ambassador. Okafor's smile widened. "Then perhaps you should see what humanity is truly capable of before making your final assessment." She nodded to General Tanaka, who activated a small device on his wrist. Above them, a brief flash of light illuminated the sky. "What was that?" demanded Zix Terrell. "We just disabled the cloaking systems on one of our defense platforms," Okafor explained casually. 300 identical platforms are now targeting each vessel in your fleet with quantum-locked antimatter warheads. A similar platform is currently 100 meters beneath this very location." The ambassador's skin went completely transparent with shock. "Impossible. Our scans detected only 12 primitive defense satellites." "Yes, that's what we wanted your scans to show," replied Okafor. "You're not the first to underestimate us, and I doubt you'll be the last." She stepped closer to the stunned ambassador. "Now shall we discuss that friendship option again? I believe we have much to learn from each other. For instance, we're quite curious about how you transmitted that message directly into our minds. Fascinating technology." For the first time in its 200-year diplomatic career, High Ambassador Zix Terrell found itself completely at a loss for words. Behind him, one of his guards whispered, Is this a bluff?" The second guard replied, "Do you want to find out?" The power of human absurdity. The hegemony flagship Inevitable Dominance had become a cauldron of confusion. For 3 days, the command staff had been analyzing Secretary General Okafor's claim about Earth's hidden defense platforms. Scans had been run and rerun. Quantum probes had been deployed. Stealth reconnaissance drones had mapped Earth's orbital space down to the centimeter. They had found nothing. "It was a bluff," declared Fleet Admiral Kivex, his metallic exoskeleton gleaming under the ship's bioluminescent lighting. "Their primitive minds believe they can deceive the hegemony with mere words." High Ambassador Zix Terrell wasn't so certain. The human called Okafor showed no physiological signs of deception, no elevated hormones, no micro-expressions indicating falsehood. Because they believe their own lies, insisted the Admiral. It's a psychological tactic. They've convinced themselves of an alternate reality to present confidence they do not possess. The ship's quantum intelligence pulsed into the conversation, its holographic representation a sphere of constantly shifting equations. There is a third possibility. Their technology exceeds our detection capabilities. The Admiral's exoskeleton emitted a harsh grinding sound, the equivalent of derisive laughter. Impossible. Our technological supremacy is absolute. Historically incorrect, countered the intelligence. The hegemony has encountered 3 species with technological innovations beyond our understanding. All 3 were eliminated as potential threats. Precisely why we should sterilize this planet now, growled Cavex. The humans mock us while hiding their true capabilities. High Overseer Vextari, who had been silently observing from the command deck's highest platform, finally spoke. We must understand before we act. Ambassador Zix Terrell, you will return to the surface with a full diplomatic contingent. This time, demand proof of their claims. And if they refuse, asked the ambassador. Then we will have confirmation of deception, replied Vextari. And Admiral Cavex may implement sterilization protocols. Inside the Pentagon's deepest subterranean level, Secretary General Okafor met with Earth's military and scientific leadership. They're coming back, announced General Tanaka, pointing to the tracking data. Another shuttle, larger this time, probably bringing more officials to verify our bluff. And it was a bluff, wasn't it? Asked the British Prime Minister via secure holographic link. Dr. Ndlovu cleared his throat. Not entirely. Project Aegis has 12 functional platforms, as Admiral Chen stated. The other 300 were science fiction, finished Okafor, but a convincing performance, apparently. The question is, said Admiral Chen, how do we maintain this deception? They'll demand proof. A lanky, disheveled man who had been quietly typing in the corner suddenly spoke up. We don't need to prove anything. Dr. Richard Jung was the leading theoretical physicist behind Earth's quantum weapons program. We just need to maintain uncertainty. Explain, ordered Okafor. Jung stood, pacing as he spoke. The hegemony operates on complete information, the certainty of their superiority. But humans thrive in uncertainty. It's our natural environment. He grinned. So we keep them guessing. We give contradictory information. We act irrationally. We laugh when we should be afraid. Psychological warfare, mused General Tanaka. More than that, insisted Jung. Quantum uncertainty applied to diplomacy. As long as they can't confirm whether we're bluffing or not, they can't risk attacking. Okafor nodded slowly. And meanwhile, how close are the actual quantum entanglement weapons? We've achieved short-range teleportation of antimatter particles, replied Jung. With 3 more weeks, we might have a functional prototype. The hegemony arrives in 50 minutes, said Admiral Chen. We need a strategy now. Actually, said Jung with a mischievous grin, I have an idea that's so stupid it might actually work. When High Ambassador Zix Terrell returned to Earth with an expanded delegation, including military analysts and technical specialists, they expected to find a formal diplomatic reception. Instead, they were greeted by what appeared to be a festival. Citizens from around the world had gathered in Geneva, carrying signs with slogans like Well see you ani potential over lordistas and We to ami in PCs. Street performers juggled replicas of spacecraft. Food vendors sold alien-themed snacks with names like Hegemony Hot Dogs and Surrender Sushi. What is this? Demanded Zix Terrell as the delegation disembarked. Secretary General Okafor approached, wearing what appeared to be a novelty headband with small alien figures on springs. Welcome back, Ambassador. We're so pleased you decided to join our First Contact Festival. Festival. This is not a celebration. This is a formal diplomatic. Of course, Okafor interrupted cheerfully. The formal meetings are scheduled. But our population insisted on expressing their excitement at meeting advanced extraterrestrial life. We could hardly deny them, could we? The hegemony military analysts were scanning the crowd with increasingly confused expressions. One whispered to the admiral, "Sir, we're detecting zero signs of fear or tension in the population. There are children present, elderly. No one appears concerned about potential conflict." Admiral Kivex's exoskeleton clinked as he shifted uncomfortably. "Because they know something we don't. Ambassador, I recommend immediate withdrawal." "No," insisted Zixteril. Overseer Vexteri was clear. "We must obtain verification." He turned to Okafor. "We require immediate inspection of your defensive capabilities, the platforms you claimed exist." "Absolutely," agreed Okafor without hesitation. "Dr. Zhang here will escort your technical team to our Quantum Defense Initiative headquarters. Meanwhile, perhaps you'd like to sample some of our cultural offerings. The diplomatic team has prepared a special reception showcasing Earth's diverse traditions." Before Zixteril could object, half the delegation was guided toward a large pavilion, while the technical specialists followed Dr. Zhang toward awaiting hypersonic transport. Admiral Kivex found himself seated at a long table with representatives from 17 human nations, each placing strange organic matter before him with enthusiastic explanations. "This is kimchi, fermented cabbage from Korea. You must try this tandoori chicken. It's a specialty from India. Ah, but first, a toast with vodka, a Russian tradition." The admiral's sensory appendages were overwhelmed. His translator was struggling to keep up with the rapid-fire conversations happening around him in dozens of different languages. Worse, the humans kept asking him personal questions. "Do you have families where you come from? What kind of music do you enjoy? Are there sports in the hegemony?" There was no protocol for this. In 50,000 years of hegemony encounters with new species, none had ever treated their potential executioners as honored guests at a social function. "Enough," Kivex finally bellowed, rising to his impressive 3-meter height. "This is not a diplomatic exchange. Your species faces extinction. Why do you persist in this absurdity?" The room fell silent. Then, a young diplomat from Kenya smiled and said simply, "Because absurdity is humanity's superpower, Admiral." "Explain," demanded Kivex. The Kenyan diplomat leaned forward. "Throughout our history, humans have faced impossible situations: plagues, world wars, climate disasters. Each time, when logic said we should surrender to despair, we found refuge in absurdity. We laugh at death. We create art during famine. We tell jokes in prison camps." An elder statesman from Japan continued, "Your hegemony values order, hierarchy, predictability. We understand this. But humanity thrives in chaos. It is not a strategy, Admiral. It is simply who we are." Kivex's analytical implants couldn't process this information. There was no algorithm for a species that responded to existential threats with celebration. It makes no sense." "Precisely," said Secretary General Okafor, who had just entered the room. "And that's why you can't defeat us. Even if your weapons destroyed our bodies, our absurdity would haunt your logical minds forever." Meanwhile, in a facility buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Zhang was leading the hegemony technical specialists through what appeared to be the most advanced quantum research laboratory they had ever encountered. In reality, it was an elaborate stage set constructed in 72 hours by Hollywood's finest production designers, filled with repurposed medical equipment, modified supercomputer parts, and a generous helping of blinking lights. "This is our primary quantum entanglement array," announced Zhang proudly, gesturing to a massive structure that was, in fact, 3 MRI machines welded together and covered in custom paneling. "It allows us to instantaneously teleport antimatter payloads to precisely calculated coordinates." The lead hegemony scientist, a being composed entirely of crystalline neural tissue, moved closer to inspect the device. This technology exceeds hegemony theoretical models. Our calculations suggested quantum weaponization was at least 3 centuries beyond your capabilities. Zhang shrugged casually. We get that a lot. People tend to underestimate human ingenuity when properly motivated. He pointed to a holographic display showing what appeared to be the hegemony fleet, each ship tagged with targeting data. As you can see, deployment is distributed across all 313 of your vessels. Impossible, whispered the crystalline scientist. Our stealth systems are based on gravitational lensing principles, finished Zhang. Effective against electromagnetic detection, certainly, but quantum entanglement observes the underlying reality, not the distorted spacetime. This was complete nonsense, of course, a word salad of scientific-sounding terms that Zhang had improvised on the spot. But the beauty of speaking confidently about theoretical physics was that very few beings in the galaxy could definitively say you were wrong. The hegemony technical team huddled together, communicating in their native frequencies. Finally, the lead scientist turned back to Zhang. We request detailed schematics of this technology for verification. Zhang laughed, a sound that made the crystalline being vibrate uncomfortably. I'm afraid that won't be possible. You see, we've observed your species' history of technological appropriation. 16 civilizations, was it? Each one studied, stripped of useful innovations, then discarded. The scientist's crystalline structure flickered defensively. The hegemony optimizes galactic resources. Save it, interrupted Zhang. Here's what's going to happen instead. You're going to return to your fleet and explain that humanity possesses technological capabilities that make us extremely dangerous to attack, but extremely valuable as allies. And if we determine you are bluffing, challenged the scientist. Zhang smiled. Then you'll have to risk finding out. And here's the interesting part about quantum uncertainty. The mere act of testing our defenses would collapse the waveform. If you're wrong, you lose your entire fleet in the process of finding out. Back on the hegemony flagship, the command staff received the returning delegations with growing concern. They showed you nothing concrete, argued Admiral Kavex. No actual proof of these supposed weapons. That's true, admitted the crystalline chief scientist. But their theoretical understanding of quantum mechanics exceeds our own. Their informal discussions included concepts our scientists have only recently begun to explore. High Overseer Vexteri's tendrils twisted anxiously. You believe their claims are credible. I believe we cannot dismiss them, replied the scientist cautiously. There is a non-zero probability that they have achieved the capabilities they describe. And the population's behavior? Vexteri asked Ambassador Zixteril. Incomprehensible, admitted the ambassador. They treated our arrival as a cause for celebration. Their leaders discussed extinction protocols while offering us fermented beverages and spiced proteins. They appear to have no fear response at all. The ship's quantum intelligence pulsed thoughtfully. I have analyzed all available data on human psychology and history. I believe I understand their strategy. All eyes turned to the shifting mathematical sphere. They have created a situation of perfect uncertainty. If we attack, and they are bluffing, we eliminate a potentially valuable species. If we attack, and they are not bluffing, we lose our fleet. If we retreat, we appear weak but preserve all options. If we negotiate, we potentially gain access to advanced quantum technologies. Game theory suggests negotiation as the optimal path, it concluded. High Overseer Vexteri considered this for a long moment. In 50,000 years, the hegemony has never negotiated with a pre-integration species as equals. There is always a first time, observed the quantum intelligence. 3 days later, Secretary General Okafor stood before the United Nations General Assembly with High Ambassador Zixteril at her side. Today marks a historic moment, she announced to the assembled representatives and the billions watching worldwide. The galactic hegemony has extended formal recognition to Earth as an independent associate member. with full technological exchange privileges and mutual defense guarantees. What she didn't mention was that Earth's quantum entanglement weapons existed only as theoretical papers and Hollywood props. That the bluff had worked because humans had done something no other species in the galaxy had ever attempted. They had laughed in the face of extinction. As the audience erupted in applause, Ambassador Zix Terrell leaned toward Okafor and whispered, "Your species is utterly baffling." Okafor smiled. "We get that a lot. One question remains," continued the ambassador. "Those defense platforms will remain our little secret," Okafor interrupted with a wink. Behind the ambassador, Dr. John caught her eye and gave a subtle thumbs up. The actual quantum entanglement prototype had just achieved its first successful weapons test. Within 6 months, the bluff would become reality. But the hegemony would never know for certain when that line had been crossed. And that uncertainty, the quantum superposition of human capability existing simultaneously as both bluff and reality, had become humanity's greatest shield. On the streets outside, the celebration continued. Citizens of Earth danced with visiting hegemony researchers. Children taught confused alien diplomats to play hopscotch. Restaurants created new fusion cuisines incorporating biochemistry data from 17 galactic species. Aboard the inevitable Dominance, Admiral Kivex watched the broadcasts with lingering suspicion. "I still believe they were bluffing," he muttered. The ship's quantum intelligence pulsed thoughtfully. "Does it matter? The outcome is optimal regardless." "We should have certainty," insisted the Admiral. "Perhaps," mused the intelligence, "the humans have taught the hegemony something even more valuable than technology: the power of uncertainty. After 50,000 years of absolute knowledge, we have encountered a problem we cannot solve, and yet we have survived." As night fell over Geneva, Secretary General Okafor stood on her hotel balcony, looking up at the stars where the hegemony fleet hung in high orbit. Dr. Zhang joined her, offering a glass of champagne. "To the most successful bluff in human history," he toasted. Okafor clinked her glass against his. "Not exactly a bluff anymore. From what I hear, your team got the prototype working." "Small scale, but yes," Zhang confirmed. "Though I'm still not sure which was more effective, the actual technology or the fact that we responded to their apocalyptic threats with a street festival and food samples." Okafor laughed. "That's humanity's greatest strength, Richard. When the universe expects us to follow a script, we improvise. When logic says surrender, we throw a party." She looked up at the stars again. The hegemony has spent 50,000 years spreading perfect order throughout the galaxy. Perhaps what they really needed was a little chaos. "To beautiful chaos, then," said Zhang, raising his glass again. "And to uncertainty," added Okafor. "May it keep us all humble and alive."